Hey everyone! Welcome to Update X24H, your go-to channel for the latest news, hottest dramas, breaking stories, and all the buzz from the world of entertainment. We're here to keep you updated, entertained, and always in the loop. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing family, because here at Update X24H, we bring you the news that matters, the drama you love, and the stories you can't miss. Thanks for being part of our community. Let's stay connected, stay updated, and keep the good vibes rolling. Have you ever seen a man in the spotlight not just say sorry, not just cry on camera, but completely change the direction of his life for the woman he loves? Tonight, we're not talking about a breakup, a scandal, or another messy rumor. We're talking about the moment Yulong did something no other man in his position would dare to do. And why, in front of hundreds of reporters and millions of viewers, young Maymay simply could not hold back her tears. Stay with me because this is not just a love story. It's a story about responsibility, healing, and what real courage looks like in the entertainment world. The China International Media Center had seen countless press conferences before. Film promotions, contract renewals, apologies that sounded as if they'd been written by a lawyer. But that day felt different from the moment people walked through the door. There were no flashy posters, no sponsor backdrops, no big brand logos. Just a deep blue background and a simple line on the screen. Today we speak the truth. Journalists whispered to one another. Some expected a dramatic breakup statement. Others thought it would be a carefully scripted damage control session. Then Yulong walked onto the stage. He looked thinner, quieter, not styled to perfection like usual. No glittering accessories, no designer suit trying to impress anyone. Just a plain black jacket. And a pair of eyes that had clearly not slept properly for a very long time. Next to him were 3 chairs. One for him, one for young Mei Mei, and one more that nobody could quite explain. For a brief moment that second chair was empty. Cameras zoomed in. Comment sections online went wild. She didn't come? Did they break up? Is he going to apologize alone? Then the side door opened. Young Maymay stepped in. No heavy makeup, no glittering gown. Just a simple white blouse and dark trousers, like someone who had chosen honesty over image. Behind her walked her parents, and suddenly everyone understood. This was not a performance. This was a family intervention live on air. Yulong stood up as soon as he saw them. He pulled out the chair for Maymay, bowed slightly to her parents, and took a long, shaky breath. At first, everyone thought he would do what most celebrities do. Explain, defend, deny, clarify the misunderstanding. But instead, he did something completely different. He placed a thick brown envelope on the podium. Before I say anything about myself, he began, voice quiet but clear. I need to talk about responsibility. Inside that envelope were documents not prepared by a PR team, but by lawyers, counselors, and mediators who had been working with the couple for weeks. He announced in front of the cameras that he had stepped down from several major projects where the scandal had placed pressure on Mei Mei, transferred part of his own earnings from those projects into a fund under her name, not as hush money, but as recognition that she had been dragged into consequences she never chose. Requested a clause in his future contracts that no brand or production company was allowed to use her name, image, or private life for promotional drama. The room went silent. This was not just, I'm sorry. This was a man restructuring his career in real time, so that the woman he loved would no longer be used as a shield or a target. And then came the part that broke young Mei Mei. When Yulong stepped away from the microphone, it was as if the entire room stopped breathing. For a second, people thought he was simply changing his position or adjusting his notes. No one imagined that he was about to do something that would redraw the line between performance and truth. He walked towards young Maymay's parents, not towards the cameras, not towards the journalists, but towards the 2 people who had watched their daughter be torn apart by strangers who had never met her. He paused right in front of them, eyes lowered, hands shaking slightly at his sides. Then, without any dramatic flourish, he sank to his knees. There was no music, no slow motion, no cinematic lighting. Just the soft, heavy sound of his knees hitting the stage floor, echoing louder in people's hearts than any amplified speech. A few cameras trembled as even seasoned reporters struggled to steady their hands. Uncle, Auntie, he began, and his voice was not the polished tone of a trained celebrity. It was rough, uneven, human. He admitted, openly and without excuse, that in the darkest days of the scandal he had failed them. He had failed to protect their daughter, failed to speak quickly enough, loudly enough, bravely enough. While the internet twisted her into a villain, he had stayed silent, paralyzed by fear of making things worse, too consumed by his own panic to see how much she was breaking. He did not ask them to forget. He did not beg them to pretend. Instead, he asked for something far more difficult, the chance to carry the blame that had never belonged to her in the first place. If there was a price to be paid, he said, let it be taken from his life, his reputation, his opportunities. He was willing to slow his career so hers could breathe again, willing to let his name become a shield rather than a sword pointed at her. As he spoke, young Mei Mei's tears fell faster, not only because of what he said, but because of what it meant. This was not a performance crafted for sympathy. It was a man choosing to be small in a world that rewards ego, choosing to kneel in a space built to place him on a pedestal. In that quiet, trembling moment, his promise was not just to her parents, but to her and to himself, that from this day forward, he would no longer let fear speak louder than love. While the world had spent months arguing over rumors, dissecting headlines, and replaying clips of their worst moments, Yulong had been quietly working on something no one could see. It did not live on trending pages or in gossip threads. It lived in late-night meetings, in long calls with lawyers, in hushed conversations with therapists who specialized in trauma and burnout. So when he signaled to the technical team and the lights dimmed, the audience expected another statement about himself. Instead, a simple phrase appeared on the screen behind him: the Safe Room Project. He did not introduce it with flashy language or self-praise. He spoke slowly, explaining that the scandal had forced him to confront a truth he had ignored for years. That fame does not just bruise egos, it damages minds, families, and the quiet people in the background who never appear in the credits. He described young actors hiding panic attacks before live broadcasts, parents waking to find their child's name trending for all the wrong reasons, assistants and stylists watching breakdowns in corridors, then going home as if nothing had happened. He admitted that if he and Mei Mei, with all their resources, had felt close to breaking, others with less support must have been completely alone. The Safe Room Project, he revealed, had been built for them. Free confidential counseling for new artists. Emergency support lines for families suddenly thrown into public scrutiny. Legal guidance on how to respond to malicious stories without sacrificing mental health. Workshops teaching agencies how to protect, not simply package, the people they manage. He did not present it as a redemption arc, but as a responsibility long overdue. Watching him speak, it became clear that this was not a hidden strategy to clean his image. It was the one constructive thing he had clung to when everything else seemed to be falling apart. In choosing to build this in secret before anyone knew, he had quietly turned his own crisis into a doorway that others might walk through and find shelter. When young Mei Mei finally rose from her seat, it was not with the posture of a star stepping into the spotlight, but with the heavy, careful movements of someone carrying months' worth of unshed words. The tissue in her hand was already crumpled, her eyes still bright with tears, yet there was a steadiness in the way she walked towards the microphone that made the whole room lean in. For a moment she did not speak. She simply stood there, fingers still intertwined with Yulong's, as if drawing quiet strength from the warmth of his palm. When her voice came, it was soft, almost fragile, but it did not waver. She did not rush to defend herself, or list every rumor that had hurt her. Instead, she began with something painfully simple. She admitted that there had been days when she no longer recognized the person the internet described, and nights when she no longer recognized the person in the mirror either. She spoke of how love had once seemed so clear, like two people walking side by side, certain of the path in front of them. Then came the noise. Headlines that twisted their story, comments that treated their lives as entertainment, strangers deciding her character from a single clip. In that chaos, she confessed, she had started to doubt not just him, but herself. Had she been too quiet, too trusting, too naive? At one point, she said she had even considered leaving, not because she stopped loving him, but because she thought stepping away was the only way to protect what was left of her dignity. Yet, as she spoke, it became clear that this was not a speech about blame. It was about what she had witnessed behind closed doors. The way he had thrown himself into therapy, the way he had learnt to apologize without excuses, the way he had chosen to face his own weaknesses instead of hiding behind his fame. She did not paint him as a perfect man, nor herself as a flawless victim. She described two imperfect people learning, painfully and slowly, how to be honest with each other in a world that rewards pretending. Her voice grew firmer as she said that today was not about proving that their love was unbreakable, but about showing that it was willing to be rebuilt, piece by piece, in the open. In reclaiming her voice, she was not just defending him. She was defining herself again on her own terms, in front of everyone who had tried to write her story for her. By the time the press conference ended, there was still no applause. There didn't need to be. People walked out of the hall quietly, almost carefully, as if they had just witnessed something sacred. Online, the reactions were surprisingly different from the usual chaos. Some people said, "This is the first time I've seen a male celebrity talk about therapy without shame." Others wrote, "If this is what taking responsibility looks like, I hope more people in the industry follow." Parents commented, "I may not know them personally, but as a mother, I respect what he did today." Of course, not everyone suddenly changed their minds. There were still critics. There were still skeptics. But something had shifted. For once, the story was not about who was right or wrong in a love scandal. It was about how we treat human beings when they make mistakes, how the industry handles emotional damage, and how rare but powerful it is when someone chooses to repair, rather than simply rebrand. And that is why, when Yulong did something no other man in his position had dared to do, young Mei Mei's tears were not just tears of pain. They were the tears of someone finally seeing a way forward. In the end, this story is not asking us to worship celebrities. It is asking us something much simpler. When we look at the people we love, do we choose our pride, or do we choose their peace? And maybe, just maybe, that is why this moment will be remembered not as a scandal, but as a quiet turning point in how we talk about love, responsibility, and mental health in the spotlight. If this story touched your heart, or made you see celebrity headlines in a different way, I'd be truly grateful if you could subscribe to Update X24H, turn on the notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that real love is not just about words, but about choices. Thank you so much for spending your time here with me today. Stay kind, stay thoughtful, and stay tuned, because on Update X24H, we don't just chase drama, we search for the human truth behind every story. Crescent Moon Sparkles.